Let's talk a little bit about rent backs. So if you've sold or bought a home recently, you've been part of a buy or sell transaction, you may have heard the term rent back. It might have been a strategy you used, you considered, or just talked to your realtor about. Rent back is jargon for post-settlement occupancy. This is a clause or contingency that's part of the offer packet presented to the seller, hopefully as an incentive to accept this offer in order to give the seller a benefit. So what is the benefit to the seller for post-settlement occupancy? Let's say that you are selling and buying your home and you need to do them somewhat concurrently. You want to buy your next home. In order to do that, you'll need the funds, the proceeds from your current home. And the time in between, the time that you close on your home and the time that you can find, execute an offer, and close on the second home might be kind of close. But you can't do it because you don't have the funds. You need those funds. Not a lot of people can afford to have two houses at the same time. So two mortgages at the same time, two approvals at the same time. So what you can do is sell your home, close on your home, receive the funds for your home at the closing table, but stay in the house. So essentially, the buyer has given you the permission as part of the terms of the offer that you've executed with them, the one that you've chosen, to say, yes, I'm selling this to you. Yes, I'm going to give you these funds on the closing day, but you can stay in the house. Essentially, the seller becomes the tenant of the buyer. So the buyer is now the new owner of the home. The seller has time to be able to find their new home if they haven't already identified it, go under contract on their new home, and close on the new home. The average time for post-settlement occupancy is around 30 days. Max is usually 60 days in some states. That is the max that you can stay as a post-settlement occupant. It could also just be a couple of weeks. The buyer uses as a negotiation strategy or as a tool with this post-settlement occupancy sort of depends on what the seller wants. It depends on the conditions of the offer environment. So if there's a lot of competitive offers, it's not always just the higher offer that wins, although the seller might favor a higher offer, one of the tools of the offer that they're looking at. But a buyer might decide to sweeten the deal of their offer, and instead of offering just the highest of all the competitive offers, or waive something like an inspection or even perhaps an appraisal, they might say, seller, I'm going to give you, these are some of my other terms, but I'm going to sweeten it. I'm going to allow you to stay in this house after you close so you can calmly and confidently find your next home. This can be done for free. A lot of times that it is a free rent back. That seller is staying in the house for 30 extra days or 60 extra days, not having to pay any rent, and the mortgage is done because they've sold the house while they look for their new home. The buyer may not have had to rush on this closing. Maybe they're okay in their current home. Maybe they're in a lease that's not over yet, and they're fine letting the seller stay. They're not having to pay their first mortgage payment until one full month into that timeline anyway, so it can work out. It can be for free. It can be at a per diem rate, or it can be a combination. Perhaps you would give the seller maybe 2 weeks out of a month or a month out of 2 months for free, and then they pay another portion of it themselves. So there's a lot of different ways you can craft a post-settlement agreement, but this is what a rent back is. And it's really more a tool for the buyer to sweeten the deal as one of their offer strategies. It's convenient for the seller. The seller may not need it and may decide when they see another offer maybe much higher, they might decide, well, I'm going to find a way to get out of this house quickly and do this concurrently. But it's a way for the buyer and seller to come to terms, to really have a meeting of the minds. The seller can calmly sell and buy almost at the same time concurrently, and the buyer may be able to sweeten this offer with something that's maybe less costly than just a higher offer on the home. So I hope this helps. It's used a bit. One more thing on the post-settlement occupancy is that what happens at when you place this clause, the buyer also requires basically a security deposit from the seller. And they're going to take perhaps like a per diem average of what their mortgage rate would be for however many days. And they might say, okay, we're going to say if the seller is not gone by the time that they're supposed to be. There will be a daily charge, sometimes even 200% the amount. Or they also want to protect the goods, right? So there's really nothing protecting the home. They've already given them the money. There's nothing that can protect that closing. The seller has all the funds. And now they're living in the house at the buyer's expense. So the buyer might say, okay, well, the seller's going to have to keep the utilities on and pay for them. That's quite normal. They might require that they're going to get renter insurance to protect some of the items. They might give them a deductible from a home warranty. If something breaks down during that time, the seller has to pay it, but they definitely are going to put a security deposit. They generally are taking an average of maybe how much a mortgage is for that time, perhaps a month worth. Could be $2,000, it could be $1,500, it could be $2,500 of a security deposit stays in escrow with the title company that does not get released until they do a final walkthrough of the home once the seller has left their post-settlement period. So what happens with this is you'll do the final walkthrough with a buyer on closing day just before they go to the closing table. Although the seller's still living in the home, you're going to check everything, that it was essentially the same as it was when you did the inspection or the last time that you saw the house, perhaps if you waived inspection. And then again, there's a second walkthrough inspection when the buyer has left. Not the buyer, really the tenant. The seller has left their post-settlement period. They've moved out. The buyer now goes in with the realtor. You do one more walkthrough to make sure everything's in place and that nothing is broken or nothing has flooded or nothing has scratched or been damaged during the seller's essential rental period, their occupancy period of their own house. And if that has happened, then there is a negotiation that happens with that security deposit that's basically in escrow with the title company. If everything's okay, then it just gets released within a few days, usually it's 3 days, to the seller, and everybody moves along their way. Seller goes to their new home, buyer finally moves into their home, and that's how the transaction works. That's what a rent back is.